This is Modern Persian Food,
a culinary podcast for today's food enthusiast.
We talk about classic Persian flavors,
modern recipes,
and embracing culture and identity through food.
I'm Bita.
And I'm also Beata.
Welcome to our show.
Hi, friends. Before we get started, would you mind taking a moment to give us a rating or a review on the podcast player that you're listening to us on? It would help us greatly in the big picture and as we get more and more listeners for the podcast. Thank you so much. And without further ado, here we go. Friends, welcome to episode number 101 of the Modern Persian Food Podcast. I am here with the lovely Bita, and I am Bita, as you know, and today we are talking about beets. Yay! Beets, also known as labu or chorondar in Farsi, in the Persian language. And we are here to kick off the next 100 episodes with one of my favorite ingredients and namesake to us both. And we are going to talk about that today. Hi, Bita June. How's it going?
Hi, good. Isn't this fun? We're in triple digits now. We had our 100th and it's like renewal. Here we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Beets talking about beets. I love it. And I'm drinking beet juice.
Woohoo!
And I'm eating something with beets.
I love it how every time we have a topic, you fully embrace it by getting all those flavors surrounding you before we start.
I do. Yeah, I'm really excited. Today we're going to find out how to prepare them and some shortcuts, and I can't wait to learn. I have made them, but I feel like you're a little bit more of a beet expert. BeatsEats.
Yep, and that's my handle is BeatsEats. I do love beets. The golden beets or bright red, dark, jewel-colored beets. They're like so delicious. They have such an earthy flavor to them. And they can actually be pretty versatile. You mean you get the bulb of the fruit. It's a root vegetable. And then typically the most common is like the dark red color, but you can also get them golden beets. And they also have this long group of stems, the beet greens, which I actually love using in recipes as well. So I'm super excited to talk about beets today and how to cook them and how to eat them and enjoy them. You know, typically they're like in salads and things like that. But if you wanted to think back, a lot of people who maybe grew up in Iran may have a visual of beets sold on the street, cooked beets. So I think if we think back, I believe it was in the Persian nuts episode that I talked about how you can get the chocolate badum in these big fat trays on the street as like a street food when they're in season. And they mound up these big trays full of chocolate badum, which is like the green almond, basically, before the almond ripens and actually turns into the almond. The whole cover of the actual almond, the whole outer shell of the almond in its raw green state, you can eat the whole thing. So they sell it on the street as a street food, and they sell you a little bit and they weigh it out for you, and then they can sprinkle some salt on it and you just walk around kind of munching on these chocolate badum. Well, beets have a very similar street food quality to them. What they have is these big round trays. I'm talking about 3 or 4 foot wide trays that they have all set up and stacked up high with these golden beets.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew I was talking to the right person about beets.
Yay.
I did not know that beets were Persian street food.
Yeah, totally. So they're cooked and sometimes they're sweet. Sometimes they have a little syrup type of flavor on them. But what they do, they're stacked up and they actually sometimes have a skewer or something just holding them in place. If you think about, sometimes you may have seen the rock art of the pieces of rock on top, stacked on top of each other. It's similar to that, but with a skewer. Oh. So you have a big tray with a ton of cooked beets, and they're bright and red. And I think some people who have eaten those will have a really special memory. I think some people who grew up eating that street food may have really nostalgic memories. I've actually never eaten it as a street food, but I've seen it and I've heard the nostalgia of people who used to eat that all the time. So that's one way that you may have seen it or that you can see it prepared. So it's definitely part of kind of that Persian street food culture. I love having beets. So I usually have some sort of beet in my house. The easiest way is I actually buy them all the time already cooked. They're steamed and they're kind of shrink wrapped in the produce section of a lot of different grocery stores if you just want a really easy shortcut way. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in some recipes I use that in. But if I'm going to cook beets, I love going to the farmer's market. And when they have like the fresh beets with the long beet greens, I love getting them. I cook the beetroot separately. What I do is I like to just chop it up and put it in a sheet pan, toss it with a little bit of olive oil. You could put a little bit of salt and pepper if you like. But really the beet flavor itself is like so beautiful that you don't even need the additional. And you just put it out on your sheet pan and put it in the oven and roast it. I do it like at 400 for like 20 minutes and then toss it around in for like another 15 to 20 minutes. It's like my favorite way to do that. It's lovely like on a bed of greens. You could add a little balsamic if you want like a little bit of dressing to add to that. But it's just like so simple and such a rustic way to eat beets. I love it. And that's like my go-to way if I'm going to prepare it myself.
My favorite way to eat beets is roasted. I love the flavor of a home roasted beet on anything. I like it just plain. This isn't necessarily Persian, but with a little goat cheese and walnuts in a salad.
Yes.
So delicious.
Yeah. So that's like a go-to recipe. My shortcut, my like getting it already pre-cooked, because you could just keep it in the fridge. And if you buy like more than one package, then it's just always there if you want to like throw together a special salad or to make this beautiful appetizer dip that I love doing. And I love the episode that we actually had with Jobrani when he was on the show, and for the Ask the Beets, he asked us for like a quick recipe, and this is what I featured there. And what it is basically mast labu. Some people will call it burani of labu, but is basically I'll get the cooked beets and grate it and then mix it with yogurt. I'll put a splash of acid, so it can be like white wine vinegar or lemon juice, and a little bit of salt and pepper, and you mix it up and it's like beautiful. Like I love having that as like a side dish to like Persian food, or as a first course, as like a dip with some crudité or crackers. Yeah, totally. Mast labu. I would say that's probably like one of like the most popular beet recipes in Persian food.
I've heard of that. And in fact, I think the technique that I missed was grating. I didn't realize that you're supposed to grate. So you grate the cooked beet before you mix it into the yogurt. I think I normally would just putting the chunks in, like small chunks. And
yeah, you could do that too. It's kind of like also like very similar to like the idea and concept of masu khiyar, the yogurt with the cucumber. So you could grate cucumber or you could chop it. You could kind of like take your own way of doing it.
Yeah. The flavor is a bit like earthy. If you've never tasted a beet, join us. If you can't beat them, join them. Yeah. I was one, personally, an adult beet lover. As a younger person, I did not care for them. And I think I shared that in a previous episode. But, it's part of my self-discovery and self-love.
Absolutely.
You gotta embrace your inner beets.
Yes. Yes.
They also have such a vibrant color.
Yes.
I noticed that as I'm drinking beet juice, along with many health benefits. Yeah, they have folate.
Oh.
And that is something that is good for your heart health. Some believe good for lowering blood pressure. They're high in fiber and low in calories.
That's helpful.
So that's good for digestive health and, like keeping you full, keeping you regular. And just loads of vitamins and minerals. And that's just the beet. The beetroot is really nutritious too. Now, do you ever use the greens? I feel like I've done something with the greens even before.
Yes. So I'd love to talk about beet greens. Some families actually, when they make ash rishte, they will use beets themselves, the beetroot itself, in the ash rishte. They'll chop it up and they'll cook it with the other greens and vegetables and spinach and stuff like that. We had a family friend who used to do that when we were little. You can do the same thing with the beet greens. You could chop them up, saute them a little bit, and throw it into your ash rishte as like an additional greens to be in part of that. I love doing that. The other thing I love doing with the beet greens as well is actually making like a burani type of yogurt dip with the beet greens.
Oh.
So what I'll do is the same thing. I'll wash them up, chop them up, saute them, maybe throw a little bit of onion in there and saute it, and then mix it with the yogurt. So this is like the cooked beet greens.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, for like a burani.
Kind of similar to like collard greens, cooking collard greens.
Yeah.
I think I might be confusing it with collard greens in terms of like, does it have like a little bitter aftertaste?
Yeah, maybe just a tiny bit, a little bit more, I would say like more earthy, really. Beets themselves are actually super sweet. They actually make sugar out of them and stuff like that. So the beet greens are not like the very tough. When I think of collard greens, I do think of like a little bit tougher, a little bit more bitter, where I don't necessarily feel the beet greens has that bitterness that the collard greens has.
Okay. Yeah. Super nutritious.
Super nutritious in the bright color. You got to be careful you don't stain everything. Like definitely wear an apron, wash your hands or wear gloves so that your hands don't get all dyed. But it's delicious and I love it because one, it's like my nickname, Beets, and it's just like I love the flavor. And then if you're lucky enough to get like golden beets, they're just so beautiful and delicate and tender. And again, you can cook them the same way or you can steam them. You were talking about how you will sometimes wrap them in foil, right?
Yeah. The technique that I use to roast them is kind of clean them up a little bit, cut the tail off and wrap them in foil. Yeah, it kind of keeps them juicy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I make like beet hummus. I've baked with beets.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've made beet brownies. Yeah.
Yeah, with like the chocolate, huh?
Yeah. It tastes kind of nice with chocolate.
Yeah, I've used beets to kind of like color up some muffins. I had some muffin molds of Spider-Man and Iron Man for my kids. So
cute.
I tried to mix some beets into the batter and use them in these really fun molds. I have to work on that one a little bit more, but
I read somewhere that they're also good for athletic performance.
Oh, okay.
And giving you energy. And I'm feeling pretty good. I just drank a nice tall glass of it. I don't have a juicer, but I did go to an organic kitchen and juice shop pre-recording to get in the mood.
Cool.
We'd love you to join our newsletter list so that you don't miss a beat. Sign up, pause recording. There's 2 ways you can sign up. Hop over to our website. You can sign up there. There's a pop-up to enter your email. Go to modernpersianfood.com and sign up for our newsletter so that you know what's coming. We have such good episodes to come, you don't want to miss it. Other way is if you're on Instagram, you can go to our bio and there's a link there to sign up. Shoot us an email with your email and we'll hand add you to our list. It's a growing list. We love this community. Join us. Today's Ask the Beets comes from our friend in Michigan, Ben. Ben wants to know, when did you start cooking Persian food and what inspired you, Beets?
All right, Beets, you want to go first?
Sure.
Go for it.
If my memory serves me, the first thing I made was pretty early adulthood, somewhere in my 20s. I started making adas polo. Now, I made adas polo. Adas is Persian for lentils, the way that my mom makes it, with raisins and dates and nuts and cinnamon. It's warm and cozy and delicious. Now, at that time, I think I was just dating Bobak. And, he's also Iranian, born in Canada from an Iranian family. And he went home and told his mom, oh my gosh, I just had adas polo. I didn't think I liked adas polo. So
cute.
That was kind of nice to hear because his mom is an amazing chef.
Yeah, MJ.
Yeah, I think MJ just makes it just plain with adas.
Oh.
He hadn't had it with all the lentils and raisins and nuts and stuff.
Oh, way to Bobby June's heart is the way Beata June makes her adas polo. Good to know. So cute.
The way to his heart is 100% from his stomach. Yes.
That's so cute.
Oh my gosh.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it was somewhere along the lines of learning to survive on my own and just in cooking. Yeah, as a young adult. I came to California before my folks moved here.
Okay.
After college, and that's when I started. How about you?
I'm not 100% sure exactly when I did it because I can imagine that when I was growing up, I'm sure incorporated some sort of Persian cooking or tried to cook it on my own or some things like that. But in spite of that, I think a noteworthy start was I had moved to New York after being born and raised in San Francisco and in the Bay Area and starting my career in advertising here in San Francisco. I moved to New York, single, and that was a new chapter of my life that when I moved to New York. And in my little kitchen in New York, I made Seville orange jam for the first time with the skin of Seville oranges. And it was actually a very pivotal point, I think, in my life. My life in San Francisco was pretty action-packed. And when I moved to New York, I wanted to actually find a place that had like a decent kitchen. And it's like, you're going to move to New York and you're going to cook. Like, you're barely even going to find an apartment big enough that you're going to be able to fit in, let alone you want to have like a big kitchen and like cooking and stuff like that. But that's what I wanted. And I got one, thankfully, in Chelsea. And I lived there for a handful of years before I ended up getting married out in New York and then moving eventually back to San Francisco, where I'm from and where I am now. But basically, I made orange marmalade in my little kitchen. And the thing with you make orange marmalade, first of all, you have to like peel the skin in kind of like little sheets. And then you scrape the pith, the white part, all out of it. And then you cut the orange peel into skinny little strips. And then once you do that, you have to actually boil the orange skin like 3 different times. You have to boil it, let it boil, and then drain it. And then do that again and do that one more time before you can actually do it. So it gets all the bitterness out of it. And I made it and I put it into these little jars. I think I made like 4 jars, 3 or 4 jars at that very first time. And it was just kind of a little bit life-changing because I remember I had like my new Le Creuset pot, like this turquoise pot, and it was just like so lovely. And I had just like a really special time. And shortly thereafter, I ended up starting my food blog, BeatsEats, and the rest is kind of history. But I would say a pivotal part and a noteworthy start to my cooking and Persian food life is that Seville orange marmalade in New York City.
I love that. It's kind of feeling like a future episode. I've cooked orange peel that way exactly that you described, but for other purposes to use as a mix-in or topping on my rices. But yeah, we should definitely do an orange episode.
Oh, good idea.
Delicious. And your story is proof you don't need a big kitchen or a lot of stuff.
Right. I had 1 pot.
It sounds like a really cute pot.
Yeah. And just like just the love and passion to incorporating Persian flavors, not only in my own life, but sharing it with others and putting in little jars and giving it to my friends.
Oh, I love that. And that's me, Oven Hug. I definitely cook and share love through food.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Beata, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to have an episode just on beets, like our nicknames.
Me too.
Never skip a beat with us on Modern Persian Food.
Can't beat a joiner.
Yeah, absolutely. Send us more Ask the Beets that we can feature on our show. Don't forget to sign up for the email. And please give us a rating or review and let us know what you think. Any topics, any guests, anything that you guys want to hear, let us know. It's us. We're doing the show. So we can be flexible and we can definitely factor in all of your recommendations and desires. Okay, until next time, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to the Modern Persian Food Podcast with Beata and Bita. Thanks for spending time with us. If you've enjoyed what you heard today, consider telling a friend or giving us a good rating. You can subscribe to our show for free on your favorite podcasting app or find us online at modernpersianfood.com or on Instagram for the recipes and information we talked about today. We'd love to hear your thoughts and see you next time.